We have to take time with people like that to perpetuate what it is that we do. So
I could not agree more.
I still remember people taking time with me, so I won't forget it.
Welcome to the Insurance Refocused podcast, where we're highlighting real agent stories and how they are innovating to respond to the changes and challenges happening in the independent insurance industry. My name's Lindsay, and I can't wait to introduce you to my amazing co-host who just so happens to be my mom, Carey Wallace. Mom, how you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. I mean, what is not to like? I'm sitting here in sunny Hilton Head, just came back from the SNA meeting with a whole bunch of great agencies yesterday. My first time in Athens, Georgia, which was a lot of fun. How are you doing, Linz?
I'm doing good. We're both traveling fools. I just came back from sunny St. Petersburg at the IIABA Marketing Summit, and I'm full of ideas, so I'm just kind of bursting at the seams over here.
I love it. Well, another great thing that we have going on today is I have the honor of having one of my absolute favorite agents on with us today, Mr. Bobby Salmon. I got to tell you, people, if you don't know Bobby Salmon, I don't know where you've been, because he's one of the best guys I know. I am honored to have you here with us. And Bobby, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are, where you're from, how you even got into this crazy insurance business that we're in together. But before you do that, I got to tell you, I remember when I met you. I had come to North Carolina to present. You were on the board of directors. Do you remember this?
I do.
Yeah. And listen, the board meeting was fine. All of that was great. But what sticks out in my mind is I had the pleasure of sitting across from you at dinner where we didn't talk about insurance at all. We talked about family.
Yes, we did.
And that was one of the best dinners I think I've ever had in my insurance career. So for those of you that don't know Bobby, we're going to give you a little background, but I hope you get to break bread with him because he's one of the best guys I know. So, Bobby, give us your background.
Well, I'll start off by saying I enjoyed that meal. We were at New York Prime and had a delicious meal. And if you've ever met me, you can tell I like to eat. So,
That's funny.
I was born, raised, and still reside in Durham, North Carolina, and had a great time, great upbringing here, and I just love this area of the state. I can be at the beach in 2.5 hours, or I can be in the mountains in 2.5 hours. So we get the best of all of it right here where we are. I got into this business in 1992. I was between careers, if you will, and had a really, really good friend that worked for an agency over in Durham, small agency. It's called Home Insurance Agency. And I knew the owner, didn't know him well, but I had known him over the years. And but a friend of mine worked with him. And so he set up a lunch date for the two of us to go out and sit down and just have a conversation. And through all of that, I started in the agency over there in Durham. And under one condition. My first day in the business, I was sent to pre-licensing school. And he said it's a 2-week school. If you pass, you've got a job. If you don't pass, good luck on what you're going to do next. And so I went to pre-licensing, came back into the office, and Lindsay will enjoy this because of INSURE Academy that we now do. But my first day in the office, after I had passed the exam, lady that was kind of the queen of the agency set me down in the back and said, "Now forget everything you learned. We're going to teach you how to do this thing called insurance." And I looked at her kind of puzzled. She said, "All you learned was what you needed to pass the exam. Now we're going to teach you the business." And they did. They did. I had great mentors there, and through some mergers with other agencies, we ended up selling in 2000 to BB&T Insurance. And at that point, I was a minority partner in the agency, and I needed to stay for 3 years to realize my full value of my ownership, and ended up staying for 7 years with them. Uh, and in 2011, I came to work here at INSURE here in Raleigh with a gentleman named Jim Poole, relationship I had built over the years through my involvement with the association here in North Carolina, and have been here ever since. Eventually,
I love it.
eventually an owner here in this agency as well. So,
Hey guys, if you're looking to improve your bottom line, allow your team to operate efficiently, and really improve that customer retention, I believe you should check out Ascend. Ascend is the all-in-one insurance payment solution. They are focused on streamlining your invoicing, premium financing, accounting, and they'll even make your carrier payables for you. They are taking agency bill and making it as easy as direct bill. That is a game changer. They integrate with all of the major AMS players, and here's the best part. It's free. There is no subscription, no cost to you. They allow your customers to pay how they want. If you are interested in improving your efficiency, go visit ascend.com/insurance refocused and let them know that we sent you. So, Bobby, you said two things in that I'd really love to dig into. First of all, relationships matter. I mean, honestly, if you're here, you know that relationships literally make or break anything you do, and especially in the insurance industry. So the first agency, you said you were there and it changed. They sold and you had to stay in order to get your earn out or really realize the value that you had there. Talk to me about what that was like. There's so many people in our industry that are so worried about what that's like when you have to work for somebody else and stay involved. Tell me what that experience was like for you.
so that one, we were a small agency in Durham. There were 8 of us. We merged with 2 other agencies to form a little larger group. There were about 29 of us, I think. Then we merged with an office over in Raleigh, an agency in Raleigh called Associated, and formed an agency called INSURE. There were right at 85 of us altogether at this point. And then we sold to BB&T. So I went from a small local hometown agency to a fairly significant regional agency here in the state to the number 4 player in the world at the time, BB&T Insurance Services. So there was a lot of change. I mean, a lot of change. Anything that needed to be done, you had to get 3 levels of sign off. It was frustrating for someone with some entrepreneurial spirit and not used to having an answer to everyone in the world. And but the insurance business side of it remained much the same. Yeah, we were a large organization, but we were divided out into small teams, and so it was much like it always had been. You said it. I agree 100%. Relationships are everything, be it within the industry and with your clients. And most of the clients, they were dealing not with BB&T Insurance Services, which is now, of course, McGriff, but they were dealing with Bobby Salmon, Inc. and Bobby and Bobby. I was on a team with a guy named Bobby Stanley, 2 of us together. We were referred to as Team BS Squared, and it fit pretty well. After a while, that entrepreneurial side took back over, and it was time to do something different.
I think it's really interesting that you said that you went from small hometown to number 3 in the country or in the world. I mean, that's a massive, massive change. And with the M&A marketplace the way that it is today, and with private equity interested in smaller and smaller agencies, 10 years ago, you had to be a $5 million agency for private equity to be paying attention to you. That is not the case today. It's it's almost unfathomable to think of going from such a small organization to such a large organization, and that you were able to remain. They're really just dealing with Bobby, that relationship and that whole situation. I mean, good for you, because that is not the case in some of these transactions, right?
Yeah, that's very true. When we went in to meet prospects, uh, we didn't lead with we're BB&T.
Right.
We led with I'm Bobby. This is what we do. This is how we handle our accounts. This is how we work with our clients. We want to work with you the way you want us to work with you. We want to do things
Yeah.
the way you want us to do. We didn't go in thinking we had all the answers. Some of the larger brokerages, quite frankly, think they do have all the answers. They bring a team in from outside that the client never sees again after the order is given, and that is not the way we operated at all.
Yeah, it's super unique that you were able to do that, and hats off to you. So entrepreneurial spirit took over, and that took you to
I'm with
your
Insure.
second.
Yep.
Yeah, excellent. So talk to me about that. So you went from tons of resources down to what? What did that look like? What's that transition look like?
Back down to an agency with 7 people.
Woo! I love it.
And we used to laugh and joke when we had lunch. The board had met. There were 3 of us as owners in the agency, and that was the truth. We ate lunch together practically every day, and while we were at lunch, we would talk about maybe world events, sports, family, whatever it was. But we always got back around to the agency, and
Yeah.
that's who we were. And it was refreshing being back to what I started with, and just it fit. It fit with who I
Yeah.
was and what I was after at the time.
So tell me again, what year was that when you joined?
2011.
2011. I
Yes.
love it. Did you bring anything that you learned from the BB&T experience to that entity? Like, it'd be hard not to. I
Oh,
mean, you really, right?
yeah. We're all a culmination of what we've done and where we've been. And so, some of the intellectual capacity I picked up along the way, yeah, I brought it here. Uh,
Yeah.
but
That's awesome.
remained with the same attitude in meeting with clients is, they're dealing with you and building those relationships. We had there was a lady here that was an owner of the agency who was retiring. She was moving out, and so I took over handling a lot of her accounts and had to build those relationships. We were 2 very different people, um, and it went very well. Uh, we transitioned that very successfully, and then continue to grow on it from there.
I talk a lot about that in helping agencies who are thinking about either transitioning internally, selling externally. If your book isn't transferable, the value of your agency is negatively impacted significantly. And what I mean by that is if it depends on you, if they do business here because it's Bobby Salmon versus they do business because it's the organization and the whole team and all of that, it can actually be pretty detrimental. And those transitions of relationships take time and care. And ultimately, whoever that person is that holds that relationship, what they say about you is what really carries the weight to say whether or not they're staying with the agency when you move on. Is that the experience that you found there? And what did that process look like?
Uh, you know, Joanne Roebuck was her name.
Yep.
She took me. We went around. We met, introduced me to all of her clients, and really just passed it off at that moment. This is your person going forward. She was still here, but when clients would call her, she would hand the phone off. You need to talk to Bobby. And she was here for about 3 months after I first came.
Mm-hmm.
And, I give her a ton of credit She could have stayed in the fray and stayed right in the middle of the relationships, but she never did that. She passed it off and moved on. And I say get out of the way, and I don't mean that in a negative way at all, but that's what she chose to do, so that the transition was complete before she ever left here. She introduced him. That was that.
You know, Bobby, what you just said is one of the things that I think so many agency owners struggle with is this is part of who I am, and part of something that's been so important to me is dealing with my customers become like family, and letting go of those relationships is really hard. So the typical situation that I see is I want to transition, but I don't know what I want to do next. So therefore, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to say I'm letting go, but then I'm going to come in and out, in and out, in and out. And it makes it really hard for the next owner to be successful, or the next person responsible. And, you know, good hats off to her that she did not do that to you, because it's really tough for the customer to know where to go if that exists. See that a lot in generational agencies,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so, you know, have you ever had experience where that was the case in any of these transitions, or hopefully maybe you didn't?
Uh, a little bit, but not so much.
Yeah,
When we
yeah.
transitioned to over to BB&T, uh, some of the folks, some of the majority owners of the former agency were transitioning to other roles or transitioning out, and one in particular, it was hard for him to let go.
It is hard. I mean, but it's completely understandable. I will tell you, I often say this. I have a finance background. I thought that, you know, at one point I would get a law degree in order to do the work that I do. Do you know what would be more valuable in my role? Is actually a psychology degree, and help people deal with how difficult it is. I mean, change is hard. It's really hard. So that's not judgment. That's just the reality of, you know, so your life's work. It's sometimes difficult to let go and redefine your role and set it up for success.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
you've done it beautifully, which is pretty impressive. You
Well,
know, that's really impressive.
I learned from one of the individuals, one of the owners at the agency prior to us selling to BB&T. Uh, when we sold to them, and his role completely changed. He was no longer involved in leadership, not calling shots or anything else, which he had done for 20 some odd years. He had a very, very difficult time, uh, uh, professionally and personally. And uh, I determined at that point that insurance is what I do. It's not who I am, and it would never be who I am. And yeah, I love dealing with my clients. I love the business. I love all the relationships I've made. Uh, but it's just a part of me. It's not me. And I think keeping that in a healthy perspective helps everybody.
From the start of your career, how do you think relationships have really helped your career evolve? Like, what impact do you think that they've had?
It's been everything. I mean, it's seriously, it's been everything. Uh, when I went into the agency, home insurance agency, I was paired up with a gentleman shortly after getting there, uh, named Jim Bunning, and he took me under his wing. He and John Copeland. John was the owner of the agency, and they would go on calls with me. We'd get back in the car after the calls. They would critique what went on back and forth, um, and you know they they helped me tremendously. That was the beginning of the relationship piece of it for me. John Copeland told me early on. He said, "Bobby, let me tell you something." He says, "It's a big industry, but it's a very small world, and don't burn any bridges because you may very well be working with that same person in another 2 years or 3 years, be it on the carrier side or on the agency side." And John is the one that encouraged me to get involved with the association, the Independent Insurance Agents of North Carolina. And also at that time, we had a local association, Durham, Raleigh, and Chapel Hill. And he encouraged me to get involved there. And there are people that I met in my first year in this business that I'm still dealing with today. Uh, there are people that I met early on in the association side of it, on the carrier reps and agents both, that are still mentors to me to this very day. I still call some of them with questions from time to time. Heck, I still call John Copeland. He's not in the business at all anymore. But I still talk to him from time to time when I have some questions on some things. And so I would say the relationship side of it is indeed everything. And that's what carries me on the association side is the relationships I've made and yet to make. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I would have never met either one of you two if I had not been involved in the association.
Right.
So
Right.
That is true. It's very true. So tell me, Bobby, you were involved at the state level. Clearly, that's where we met. And you're also very involved at the national level. And obviously, my business is national. I get to meet people all across the country. And I would tell you've moved into a mentor role to many people who are across the country who are getting involved at the national level as well. There's no question about that. You've been here for a while. Tell me why you chose to be involved at the national level and really the impact you want to make in this industry at the national level.
part of it was a natural progression. I had been involved on the local level at one time, state level, and I wanted to stay involved in the association, but I had pretty much tapped out on the state side. Uh, and gentleman by the name of Dal Snipes was our national
Hmm.
director. Dal was getting ready to step aside and come back and just concentrate on his agency and passing his agency on to his son and son-in-law. And so I had been involved in some national meetings and was a bit intrigued. And was that something that I could do and something I could help with? And so when asked to serve as our national director, um, I, I accepted and thought I would give it a shot, see how it goes. And if it's somewhere I felt like I could add some value, I would stay involved. If not, hey, I did it for a few years and I move on back. There are a lot of people that came before me that did the very same things. They gave of themselves, they gave of their time to move this industry along, and to the benefit of all agents, whether they're members of the association or not. All independent agents across the country, they get the benefit of what we do as an association, and
They sure do.
so uh, daggone it, I'm not a taker. Uh, I consider myself, and I don't mean this in a cocky way. I consider myself more of a giver than a taker. Yeah, I've taken plenty. I've gotten plenty, uh, but at the same time, I've given back, and that was something that my folks, my mom and my dad, exemplified for us. They didn't so much talk about it as just watching it happen, and so it's a learned trait, if you will. Um, so that's my
Yeah.
reason for being involved.
I would agree, and I would tell you, I obviously came from the association place. Also, that's what brought me into this industry at all. And I would tell you, most of the agent volunteers that I've gotten to know very well say that the time that they have spent collaborating, working with their state association, moving on to the national, they have gotten far more than they ever imagined from the relationships that they built there, the diversity in thinking, the ability to literally work together for the betterment of the industry and agents all across the country is way more rewarding than they ever could imagine. And, I would agree. I watch it every day. And, it's nice to have a purview to see beyond what's happening in your marketplace. You get to hear what's happening in a different place and think about it differently. So no question about that. I mean, it's no secret. You're actually running for the national board of the IIABA. So tell me, what do you hope to accomplish in that role, Bobby? I'd love to hear what you want to do at that level. And I think fantastic. I would love to see you in that role, but I'd love to hear from your voice what you hope to do there.
I did put my name in the hat to run for the executive committee of the association. We will see that election will be in September, how that goes. Um, It's something I feel like I can add some value to. Um, you know, whether you push the rope or pull the rope, where do you get the furthest? Pulling the rope, obviously. And there's so many things on the horizon in this industry where we think we're using technology now. We're not using technology at all like we should be or could be or will be in the next 5 years. Uh, I'd like,
Amen to that.
yeah, I would like to be there to help with that, to encourage folks to adopt uh, different technologies that are available and that will become available. And we actually had an INSURE Tech Summit at this past board meeting last week while we were in Savannah, Georgia. And it was more of a big picture overview. It wasn't, we didn't get down into any nitty gritty, but just more and more helping people understand the need for technology. Still amazes me that there are agencies out there that do not even have an agency management system. They're doing it on pen and paper, and it blows my mind. Uh, and there are other challenges that are coming along. We have parts of the country where availability, capacity is a huge issue. When you look along the Gulf
Yeah.
Coast, from Florida on around past Louisiana, um, and just being able to help with those sorts of things. There are
Yeah.
legislative issues that are upcoming, and then
Yeah.
there's things coming that we don't even know that's coming. And I just feel like that I have something to offer. If others agree, I'll be there. If they don't agree, I won't. It's pretty much that simple.
The podcast you're on right now is called Insurance Refocused, and I think that in the next 5 to 10 years, the focus is going to be different. The agency owners are facing customers are changing their expectations. I mean, my Lord, the things that changed just with COVID and how you conduct your life across every place, how you exercise, how you shop, how you bank, anything is all different, and it all is interconnected. And we will all have different expectations for how we engage. So from a customer standpoint, certainly from a carrier standpoint, that is evolving all the time. The agency is expected to do far more than when you started in this industry. There's no two ways around that. And when I look at Lindsay, what's going to happen 10 years from now when maybe you and I aren't in this industry, it will look and feel completely different. So I love that you're there to give the knowledge of what was and help shape what will be, because the people coming in now don't have that perspective. It's really important to marry that together. And it's incredibly important for those people to give back and work together and not think, let's throw everything out and start again from scratch. It's really not how this industry works. It's you've got to marry things together and have diversity of thought. So I'm glad you threw your hat in, and I can't wait for September to see how that works out. But there's no question our industry is changing. Mm-hmm. Technology's changing it. Your team, I don't know if you have any experience with using virtual assistants, but I'd love to hear your thought on redefining and refocusing how you even think about teams. Is that something that you guys thought about, like remote work, virtual assistants? Can you talk about that at all?
When I was at BB&T, we actually did use remote workers, virtual assistants, whatever you want to call it. They handled some of the back office tasks for us. Checking policies, loading policies into the management system, comparing the policy forms, making sure all the endorsements that were on the previous policy were on the current, those sorts of things, which freed our account managers up to work more with our clients, to be more hands-on, more proactive, help cross-sell, that sort of thing. So I've had experience with that in the past. We're not using any. We're handling everything in-house. But it's not something I'm scared of or something that I'm opposed to at all. And I know it's gaining more and more of a foothold within the industry.
Well, it's actually redefining the profitability that you can expect out of your agency and impacting those that are embracing that kind of model can invest in other areas like technology and really create some serious efficiencies if it's done right. I'm not suggesting it's a plug and play for everyone, but it's definitely changing the complexion of the way that people do business. And it's, I find it super exciting because I get to see the financial impact when someone does that and what they're able to create inside their agency. Yeah. It's pretty exciting time. You know, I firmly believe this is one of the best industries to be in. And today is probably one of the best times because there's more options and, InsureTech is plentiful. Oh my goodness. You said you guys were big picture. Like the choices in InsureTech are actually kind of debilitating for some. So being able to navigate that and think about that is exciting and also overwhelming for some people. But, again, at least there's a lot of options out there to think through.
And you said something that's so true. It's such a great time in our industry, and the opportunities are just endless. And with the aging of so many within our industry that'll be turning over in the next 5 years, the opportunities that are there just continue to expand. What we haven't done is we have not done a great job in telling our story and what we are. We've allowed the trial bar and others to tell our story, to define who we are. With the commercials, we're the people that say no all the time. The general public doesn't know they're talking about the carrier. All they know is they're talking about the insurance people. They're denying you a claim. They don't want to do this. They don't want to honor their word. They're selling you things you don't need. They're selling at the highest price they can find. And we have not done a good job countering that argument at all. We've allowed them to define us, and we've got to change that dynamic in order to be able to attract people to our industry.
It's funny you say that, Bobby. I was just at a conference. It's called the One City World Tour, where Bradley Flowers and Scott Howell of the Insurance Guys podcast got together with Lovebox, and they put together this conference that was amazing. It was down
in Austin, right?
Yep. Yeah, it was fantastic. But the reason I bring it up is they want to embrace this telling the independent insurance agency's story. So you'll see their shirts that say big industry, small community. They want to tackle, I want people to know who an independent insurance agency is, what makes it different, and why you should do business with them. It's a huge, huge undertaking, and there's a lot of debate whether or not you can do it. But I got to tell you, man, it was pretty exciting to hear them talk about it. And I'd love to see agents get behind this in a pretty significant way. That's been tried, and we could probably do a whole podcast just on that topic alone. But, I love, you actually almost used the exact words, which was kind of interesting, So anyway, we'll see what happens. But I'm excited that they want to take it on, because I agree. Most people don't know it, and we're not telling our story very well, right?
We're not doing a good job. That's for sure. We've got to do a much, much better job.
One last question for you, Bobby. If you could go back to when you first started, when you first were walking off that pre-licensing class and coming into the agency with no idea how to do anything and unlearning everything, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
Oh, Lord. Listen more.
Listen more. I like
Listen
that.
more. Absorb that young Bobby. He was a cocky jerk that thought he knew everything. And I didn't know a ton about this business, but I thought I could pick it up really quickly. And I should have, how do I word this exactly? I should have become more of a student of insurance. I should have become more of a technician sooner than I did. I like to tell people that the first 20 years in this business, I kind of got my bachelor's degree. The last 11 years, I've gotten my master's degree in the business and in the coverage side of it. I've learned to enjoy, as crazy as this might sound, looking at policy forms and analyzing policy forms. and understanding exactly where the coverage is. It's made me so much better as an agent in doing that. That's probably what I'd tell that young dumb boy
Hmm.
that walked out of that class in Raleigh 31 years ago.
So it's no secret that the industry is changing and evolving and, rapidly every single day. And one of my major goals with this podcast is to connect young people like me who are interested in the industry, love the industry, help connect them with people who are experienced and are open to change. So, how do you think through networking and engaging, where do you think young people should go for that type of guidance?
I'm a huge proponent of the association world.
Hmm.
Um, if you're willing to get involved, and that means giving some time,
Yep.
not just show up at one meeting a year and think you're involved. Uh, Going to these conferences, seeking out some of the folks uh, that that are obviously successful. You would be amazed, or many people would be amazed, not you particularly. Many people would be amazed at how willing people are willing to give them themselves and share what they've learned. Um, you know, People say, well, I'm not going to go sit in a room with my competitors. Well, that's not what it's about. They're
No.
not necessarily. Yeah, we're all in the same business, and yeah, there may come a time you cross paths somewhere on an account. Um, but people are amazingly open with what they've learned and what they know, uh, and that's the first place I'd tell people to go plant themselves. Uh, and I think if you talk to the young agents in North Carolina and in other states for that matter, I think they'd tell you the same thing. I mean, from early on, I could pick up the phone. If I had a problem on an account, there were 10 or 15 people I could pick up the phone and talk to them about it and ask them, what carrier should I go to? What should I look for? What about this? What about that? And totally open and willing to help. Um, that'd be the piece of advice I'd give.
That's what it's all about, really. Networking. That's the community you're trying to build. So I love that advice. Listen and, touch as many people as possible.
If you're so insecure you're not willing to share the knowledge you've gotten, that's not somebody you want to be around anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, if that's the case, they're in the wrong industry.
That's right.
Because it's actually what makes this industry super special. I mean, think about what I just said. Bradley Flowers and Scott Howell, who run their own insurance agencies, put on a conference to help other agents be better.
Right.
That's the crazy thing. Bobby Salmon has sat on boards to make other agents better. Like, that is the cool thing about our industry. And it's the thing that I love. It's the reason I want to help and be part of this industry, is because it's a community. And I fully agree with you. I would tell you, I get to talk to a lot of agents that are transitioning ownership or considering it. And, obviously that's what by valuing agencies and working on that. And they're worried about, what do I do next? I'm worried about the knowledge that's leaving and what gap that leaves for the people who remain, and how do we create a connection? So it's one of the reasons I was convinced to even do a podcast, to be quite honest with you, is because there's so much intellectual capital getting ready to walk away, and it frightens me. I want there to be this connection. So Bobby, I am so excited that you came on the podcast. Thank you so much. If someone wants to reach out to you, how can they find you?
Well, if it's on a Saturday, they're going to have to come to the woods because I'm probably hunting. No, I'm open and available anytime. And the very best way to get in touch with me is my mobile phone, which is 919-630-0921. And pick up the phone and call me. And I'm serious about that. I got a call about a month ago from a young man in South Carolina. I thought he was in Georgia because he said Augusta, but he was actually in North Augusta.
Ah.
And he had picked up my number, I don't know where, but he called me on my mobile phone and was asking about market access. And we probably spent 20 minutes together on the phone. And I suggested he get in touch with the South Carolina Independent Insurance Agents Association to get involved with the market access program. But he said something at the end that it embarrassed me, it hurt my feelings. But he said I was the fourth agent he had called, and I was the first one. I was the first one that was willing to talk to him.
Oh man!
And we can't do that. Others
That's not okay.
Others were too busy. They had too much going on. I don't have time to talk right now. We have to take time with people like that to perpetuate what it is that we do. So
I could not agree more.
I still remember people taking time with me, so I won't forget it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Bobby. This is a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank y'all very much. I appreciate it. Hope y'all have a great day.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Insurance Refocused podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to hit subscribe and leave us a review so you'll never miss us. Want to learn more about how Agency Focus can help you grow your agency? Head to agency-focus.com or email Carey directly at carey@agency-focus.com. If you need to get in touch with me, feel free to shoot me an email at lindsay@agency-focus.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.